Hello and welcome back to our channel. Today's video is on Mazagon dock shipbuilders and the defense connection to it. India spent a whopping 77.6 billion US dollars on defense and military capabilities in 2021. We were the third highest spender in the world. Many would say that it's money well spent to protect our borders. But there is a problem here. A good chunk of this money goes to foreign institutions. We are actually the largest importer of arms in the world, accounting for almost 11% of total global sales. Simply put, we haven't done enough to create self reliance or Atmanirbharta on this front. And while in 1992 we set a goal to achieve 70% self reliance, we were still at 38.5% in 2011. But it's been changing slowly over the years. Now, 68% of the Indian military budget is being set aside for domestically produced arms, and it's benefiting a select set of companies building for India, most notably Mazagon Dock Shipbuilders Limited, whose share price has soared by more than 200% in the past 6 months. Now, Mazagon Dock has been around for centuries. It began life in 1774 as a dry dock in the village of Mazagon in Mumbai. The objective then was to service ships belonging to the British East India Company, and it was only in the 1960s that the Indian government looked at the company and said, "Hey, we need to relook at our defense manufacturing capabilities and can't have the private sector waltzing about. We are going to nationalize these guys." Since then, Mazagon Dock has lived life as a defense public sector undertaking. If the Indian Navy wants a submarine, they turn to Mazagon. If they want a destroyer that can take out enemy warships, it's Mazagon again. It has a virtual monopoly in these two domains. And in fact, it was Mazagon that built the first made in India submarine named Aina Shalki in 1992. But why is there a sudden interest in the company now? Well, to be honest, it's not really sudden. When MDSL went public in October 2020, people were clamoring to get a piece of the stock. On the day it was listed, its shares popped by 50%. And there have been a few things driving this frenzy. The first is the intention to go local. There are over 1200 defense components listed for indigenization, meaning India wants to produce these parts locally. And 144 parts go on warships made by Mazagon alone. Granted, Mazagon won't be making all these parts themselves, but they are going to rely on private Indian players. The hope is that this will expedite sourcing and cut costs, boosting company margins. There's also the fact that the company has a massive order backlog of 52,113 crores declared in August 2022. This isn't revenue. It's sort of a leading indicator that tells you all the projects in that pipeline that could translate to revenue over the next 24 to 48 months. And finally, there is a broad theme playing it out that may aid Mazagon. It has to do with Indian Navy. See, typically, a bulk of the defense budget goes to the Army and Air Force, simply because we share a land border with both Pakistan and China, and they haven't been the friendliest of neighbors. So, to reinforce the borders, we have been spending the bulk of our monies on the Army and Air Force. Also, we haven't had too many naval skirmishes. But recently, India has been playing a more strategic role in the Indo Pacific region. We are now part of the Quad group that includes Australia, the US, and Japan, and it has maritime security at the top of its agenda. India will surely want to up its naval game a bit, especially considering the Chinese threat. If we compare the figures of both China and India, China has 36 large surface warships and we have just 10. China has 105 small surface battleships and India has just 32. Our neighbor has 76 submarines to our only 16. So we definitely need to beef up our figures. And that's probably one reason why our naval budget has seen a rise from a 16% share of overall defense budget to 19% in just the past couple of years. But there's the kicker. We aren't just pouring money into hiring more personnel and maintaining the current fleet. Instead, it's more about modernization. We need massive ships that can house fighter jets and choppers. We need destroyers that can take out torpedoes, and we need quick, smaller corvettes to patrol the coast and keep an eye on submarines. And we also need a bunch of stealthy submarines for ourselves too. So we are building our Navy fleet in a big way as part of India's grand maritime capability perspective plan. And you can imagine what this means for a defense PSU such as Mazagon Dock. Since the 1960s, Mazagon has built 799 vessels, which include 26 warships, destroyers, missile boats, and submarines. With major submarines and warship projects in the pipeline worth around 1.82 lakh crores over the next decade, investors are feeling quite gung ho about Mazagon's prospects. All this sounds great, but what's the risk? There is the most obvious one, of course, the heavy dependence on government projects. If the government does decide to pull back on its ambitious expansionary plans, that could be a big problem for Mazagon. Also, while Mazagon has a proven track record, it still has to bid for projects alongside other Indian and international players. If they stumble, their top line could take a beating too. And finally, Mazagon is still a shipbuilding company. It hasn't yet capitalized on the higher margin ship repair business, which just accounts for 3% of sales. Remember, shipbuilding takes many, many years. Ship repairs, however, are quicker to execute. And if Mazagon doesn't step up, it could lose a chunk of what's estimated to be an 18,000 crore market by FY 2030. The question now is, have investors already priced in all this growth? Just 6 months ago, it was trading at a price multiple of only 10 times its earning. Today, it has soared to 29 times, and that's not cheap, especially for a government owned company. So, does this stock still have steam, or is it going to remain at the dock for a while? Please let us know your comments and your thoughts so that we can validate the same. Until then, thanks for watching.